my name is Miguel Mata, and this is the This Way Out podcast, a component of the This Way Out project. This podcast is my attempt to address a few topics that can be especially challenging for some, but hopefully in a way that speaks to the humanity in each of us. It's my attempt at being a source for positive messages in a time where such messages can be hard to find. Good morning. It's May the 4th, 2020. May the 4th be with you. Got any Star Wars fans out there? You got your Star Wars memes and stuff like that on your social media already? Have you been reading a bunch of Star Wars stuff on social media? Are you getting excited? Or are you just kind of overwhelmed by it all? It's like, enough with the Star Wars stuff. Yep, my bad. I am guilty. I too am posting the Star Wars stuff. I'm a big Star Wars fan. What can I say? I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater when I was a kid, and ever since it's always been my favorite Star Wars movie. Are you a Star Wars fan? Are we talking about Star Wars today? No, we're not talking about Star Wars today. I could easily talk about Star Wars for a very long time, but I digress. Because I could talk for a long time. Now I digress. But actually what we are going to talk about, or what I'm going to talk about today, is I'd like to touch on compassion today a little bit. I've talked about this, I think I went live on this subject one time on my Facebook page, on the This Way Out Facebook page, and discussed it and just got kind of opinions as to, different moments in our lives when we have an opportunity to be compassionate or show some compassion. And, that it's kind of a split opinion. People are kind of split down the middle as to how they feel about certain situations. And if I could zero it in a little even more specifically, it would be how do you respond to seeing like homeless people on the street, and if they ask you for money, how do you respond? Do you give them money, or do you ignore them? Right? Or, maybe you want to give them money and you don't have money. That's fine, or whatever. But how do you respond to these people? I give them money, and my son is making noises in the background. I don't know if you can hear that, but I give them money, and I give them money because let me back up just a little bit. Some of the reasons that some people don't necessarily share their time or their time or their money with homeless people or people who are down and out in their luck is because there's some judgmental thinking. There's some thinking in there that's like, what would this teach this person? I've heard someone say that. What do you think that's going to teach them? What do you think they're going to do with that money? And if I had to be honest, which I have to be, I would like to be here, I was also one of those types of people. But that way of thinking changed for me fairly recently, actually, not too long ago, a few years ago, but not too long ago. It happened when my wife and I were in Myrtle Beach in South Carolina to celebrate our anniversary, and we were getting ready to go eat at an IHOP, and there was this lady outside, and she was asking people for money as they walked into the IHOP, and my wife gave her a couple of bucks, and we went into the IHOP. And when we were seated at our booth, I told my wife, I was like, she's probably just hustling. And my wife, she looked at me dead in the eye. She says, I don't care. I know my heart is in the right place. And then when she said that, it kind of clicked for me. I was like, really? That is really all that matters, isn't it? As long as your heart is in the right place. Showing compassion for someone, it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's how does it, how do you feel about it? How did you, what, without trying to sound too selfish, because it's not about, gaining anything from the act of being compassionate. It's it's about doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. But in the end, it's not. It isn't about what you're gaining. It's about that you're doing something out of love, right? You're doing something out of care, being careful, out of caring for another person. My wife cared for that person and their situation, took it at face value, and then offered up just a couple of dollars, $2, but took that situation at face value and did what was right because it was the right thing to do. And it clicked into my head that this really is what all of compassion hinges around. Doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, especially because we're talking about human to human interaction, person to person interaction. It's not necessarily, it really shouldn't be, when you're doing a compassionate act, it's not about doing it for your own good, even though it feels good. I mean, I guess if you want to continue to be compassionate because, you appreciate like the rewarding feeling, okay, that yeah, sure, okay. But it's about doing what is right because it's the right thing to do. And, when I spell it out that way, when you deprive someone, right, you look at a person's situation and you deprive them of something that is so minor as a dollar bill or a $2 bill or $2, some change. When you deprive that person, what are we saying? One, to that person, what are you saying about yourself? Right? What are you saying about yourself when you can't extend a courtesy, when you can't share a moment with another person who is obviously in a bad situation? Because it's really not about it, at least it shouldn't be about determining what situation, what choices this person made to land themselves in that position that influences our neglect of their need, how they conducted themselves in their life, which is in the big picture, in that one encounter, as brief as it is, we don't know anything about this person. We don't know what their situation is. We don't know how they ended up where they are. And to draw that conclusion, or to draw that opinion, to draw an opinion that says this person ended up in this place because they made bad choices, and that then makes them a bad person, and because of that, I'm going to neglect them of a need. I'm going to neglect filling their need by just a little bit. What does that say about us? What does that say about you as a person, if that's the thinking that is involved? You teaching that person, if you give that person something. You know what? I'm not a teacher yet, right? I'm not a teacher yet, at least in the professional sense. I've taught my kids things. I was on active duty in the military, and I did a lot of teaching there. And when it came to teaching a lesson, I was never concerned with when it boils down to trying to make a point and trying to teach somebody something, the choices that a person made, the bad choices that a person has made in their lives, weren't really a factor in whatever lesson I was trying to generate, whatever I was trying to teach. Does that make sense? I looked at that person as a person, and I worked with what I had at the time. And when we encounter people who are down and out, when we encounter a situation that requires our compassion, that should be our same, in my opinion, that should be our same frame of mind, in my opinion, it shouldn't necessarily be a person's resume, repertoire, history. These things shouldn't determine whether or not I do a good act, I do something good for another person, for this person. None of that should be a factor. Hardly any of that should be a factor. If I give a person $2 and they go buy beer with it, or they go buy alcohol, or go buy drugs with it, is that on me? Is that really on me? Or is that on them? My end is the compassionate part. Your end is the compassionate part. Their end is just their stuff that they're dealing with. Whatever demons they're dealing with. But it doesn't have to do, it has nothing to do with the compassionate act, with the act itself. And that's what I'm talking about right now. Talking about the act of being compassionate. The act of being compassionate is free of judgment. That's my opinion. If you're going to be compassionate and show compassion to someone, then we don't take into account a person's history, a person's choices, where they're from, who they know. If it's a person who is in need and they require someone to be compassionate for them to be able to be in a better place, be in better shape, then that compassionate act, if it's genuinely compassionate, should be free of judgment, right? Judgment. That's what we're talking about here. Judgment. Yeah. Here's the thing. It's all a matter of perspective, right? How you look at a situation. It's about, judgment really is all about how you look at a situation. And I was reading some blogs and some articles on this stuff, and I came by this story that this guy wrote, and the website escapes me. I didn't write it down, unfortunately, but the story kind of goes like this. So there's this man and this woman, this couple, and they're eating breakfast in their kitchen, and the wife looks outside and sees her neighbor putting up laundry, hanging laundry on a clothesline, right, for it to dry. And she says, "Oh, look out there. Gosh, her clothes are still dirty, and she's still hanging up her laundry. She must not know that they're dirty." Man, yeah, that kind of stinks. And then the following day, right, the man and the wife, or the husband and wife, man and the woman, are sitting in their kitchen once again eating breakfast, and the neighbor once again is putting up her laundry, and the wife looks out and says, "Look at that, her clothes are still dirty and she's still hanging them up. Her washer must be down or broken or something like that. She must not know, or she doesn't care. She must not care that her clothes are still dirty." So on the third day, right, there they were again, eating breakfast, and the neighbor was once again putting up laundry. And this time the wife says, "Oh, look, she must have got her washer fixed, because all her clothes are clean now." And "Oh, that's awesome, that's excellent." And the husband looks over to the wife and goes, "No, I cleaned our window." The window was dirty. She was over here, being critical of this person, being judgmental of this person. Or maybe she wasn't being judgmental at all. She was just looking at this situation and looking through a distorted lens, right? A dirty lens, a dirty window. And all the husband had to do was clean the window. And all of a sudden, what was reality came to light. Oh, the window was dirty. She never had dirty laundry. And that's how we look at situations, right? That's how we look at our situations sometimes. That's how we look at other people. We look at them and say, "These are dirty people. These are bad people. These are not unworthy people of my time or my money or my anything of mine." We're looking at them with these dirty windows, when in fact the dirty windows, right? The lens is on our end. The problem is on our end. We're neglecting a person's need because we can't see beyond our own issues, right? Does that make sense? And when we're talking, I mean, that's, and we could dig a little deeper in that stuff, but for simplicity's sake, what I'm talking about still is compassion. Being compassionate. The act of being compassionate. And how when it comes to being a compassionate person, we have to make sure that our windows are clean, that we're looking at people through a clear lens and seeing that they are people, just like we're people. Life isn't perfect for anyone, right? I'm sure we can all agree to that. I'm sure we can all agree that we've all faced hard times. We've all faced hard times, and we've all made choices. We've all been left with making difficult choices, right? Difficult decisions. And for many of us, those decisions played out to our favor. But that's not necessarily the case for everybody. And sometimes people need help, and they require people who are willing to be compassionate people. They need compassionate people to help them out of a tough time. And sometimes they're homeless on the street, and sometimes they need a couple of bucks. And maybe when you encounter someone, or when we encounter these people, that couple of dollars can go a long way. Now, there are a lot of stories about that too, by the way. I would research that. People get shown a little bit of compassion, and that turns their whole world right side up again. You just never know. You just never know. Yeah. Compassion. When it comes to being a compassionate person, we have to look at other people. When being compassionate for another person, we have to look at other people as exactly that, other people. Because that's what they are. That's who they are. They're people. Just like you're a person. And they've fallen on hard times, and they've found themselves in a situation that requires your help. And you don't have to write them a check for $100. Sometimes you just have to pass them $1 or $2, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no lesson that needs to be taught. There's no lesson that needs to be taught there. There's no point that needs to be made. All that needs to be done is to say, you need some help? Yeah, sure, here you go. Here's a couple of bucks. And that's it. That simple. All right, folks. Well, you know what? We'll call it there. We'll call it there. Thanks a lot for spending some time with me. Thanks a lot for listening to me talk and tuning in and allowing me to share some thoughts with you, those thoughts with you. Once again, a reminder, the podcast is available on iTunes, Google, Castbox, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I'm still looking for guests. I think I'm actually going to have a sit down with somebody today, and we might talk about I don't know what, but I have a feeling that it's going to be really, really interesting. I hope that you guys continue to do well. I hope that you're in good health and in good spirits. And we will talk to you again on Thursday. Take care. God bless. This has been the This Way Out podcast, a part of the This Way Out project. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to hear future episodes, please subscribe. If you would like to get in touch with me to recommend future topics, provide feedback, or for any other reason, you can comment on the episode or send me an email at thiswoe.light@gmail.com. That's thiswoe.light@gmail.com. If you're interested in the other aspects of the This Way Out project, be sure to visit my website at thiswoe-light.com.